Hospitals in the 1800s had one main goal: to keep people as sick as possible. Wait, what? Yeah, seriously. Think about it. If you're running a hospital, wouldn't it be better financially if patients stayed longer and received more treatments? Well, yeah, it would. So back in the day, medical practitioners used to make sure that patients stayed sick for as long as possible. For example, they used to use bloodletting, which is basically like cutting veins open to let some blood out, and also mercury, which is like this super toxic substance, and laxatives too, make people poop a lot. Also, they used to push these ideas that germs are not the reason for illnesses, and instead, they believed that diseases were caused by an imbalance of humors, whatever that means. But in reality, we know that it's germs that cause illnesses. We have, science to back this up, and we've come a long way since then. But have you ever wondered how we got here? Like, how did hospitals in the 1800s evolve into the ones that we have today? How do we get rid of these weird ideas that diseases are caused by, imbalances and stuff? Well, the answer is kind of dark. In the 1800s, there were two types of hospitals: those that followed the old school ways and those that were using newer methods. The old school way was called homeopathy. Basically, the idea was to treat like symptoms with like symptoms, if that makes sense. For example, if someone was sick, they were given something that would make others sick. Also, the idea was to give tiny doses of substances because they believed that the more diluted a substance is, the stronger it becomes. Yeah, I don't quite understand it either, but apparently this made sense to some people back then. Anyway, this form of medicine was founded by this guy named Samuel Hahnemann. He was a German doctor who started this trend in the late 1700s. By the time the mid-1800s rolled around, most cities in America and Europe had both kinds of hospitals, ones that were homeopathic and ones that weren't. The new hospitals were called allopathic. This type of medicine was based on treating diseases with chemical drugs. At first, homeopathic hospitals were super popular because compared to allopathic hospitals, they seemed nicer. They didn't use bloodletting and mercury and other harsh stuff, and also, it seemed to work during epidemics like cholera and yellow fever. Homeopathic hospitals had better results than the allopathic ones, and so by 1900, there were over 100 homeopathic hospitals in the US, and more than 20 medical colleges that taught homeopathy. Thousands of doctors were practicing it, but then something interesting happened. The same year that there were more than 100 homeopathic hospitals in the U.S., something else happened. To rich Jews, John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, they decided that they wanted to get into the medical business. These guys were already rich. They had made their fortunes in oil and steel, but they saw that medicine was becoming a big industry, and so they wanted to take advantage of that. Rockefeller and Carnegie started investing in universities and medical schools, and they basically told everyone that they didn't like homeopathy. They liked allopathy instead. In 1910, Rockefeller gave $1 million to the Carnegie Foundation to fund a report. This report was written by a guy named Abraham Flexner, and it was basically a critique of every single medical school in the US. Flexner's report was super harsh. He said that most medical schools were teaching the wrong stuff. He said that homeopathic schools were a total joke and that any school that wasn't teaching modern science-based medicine was a complete waste. After reading this report, Rockefeller and Carnegie decided to stop funding medical schools across the nation. Only Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and a few others were exempt from this. They got to keep their funding. Flexner's report basically killed off most homeopathic colleges. The Rockefeller Foundation started giving away tons of money to the exempt schools, like millions of dollars. And suddenly, just like that, things changed. Over time, hospitals that were once homeopathic were bought out by pharmaceutical companies and turned into allopathic hospitals. By the mid-20th century, Homeopathy was basically dead in the US, though it lives on in Europe, India, and South America. So who was responsible for killing homeopathy? Well, there were 4 main culprits. First, the Rockefeller Foundation, which took all their money and gave it to schools and hospitals that were teaching drug-based medicine. Then the Carnegie Foundation, which paid for the Flexner Report. Then the American Medical Association, which used licensing laws to promote allopathic medicine and enforce Flexner's ideas. And lastly, the pharmaceutical industry, which grew from Rockefeller's Standard Oil and made huge profits from selling drugs. Mainstream history says that Flexner's report was necessary to improve medical standards, to get rid of the bad schools and professionalize medicine. But alternative history says that it was a takeover. Basically, it was a deliberate plan by rich industrialists to replace holistic, low-cost healing with expensive drug-based medicine. I guess it doesn't matter which version of history you believe. Either way, here we are. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to see more.